Hi, I'm Melissa Shannon from digitalscrapbookinghq.com, and today I'm going to show you how you can create your own custom embellishment. You can use these ideas even if you're a paper scrapbooker, but I'm going to demonstrate in Photoshop Elements. I'm going to start with some paper, add some text and other embellishments to create this little monogram, which I then going to place on my scrapbook page. So the first thing we're going to do to create an embellishment is to create a new Photoshop document at 300 pixels per inch. I'm going to make it 5 inches by 5 inches. I'm going to save my work as a Photoshop document. That way I'll be able to come back and edit my work later. So the next thing I'm going to do is open up the parts that I want to use to create my embellishment. File, open. And then I'm going to browse and choose two papers. I think I'll use this blue and this hexagon. Control click to select both of them and open them up in Photoshop Elements. Now I'm going to open a piece of ribbon and I'm going to choose a staple as well. Now when I've gathered everything, I'll open up my project bin and I'll double click on the embellishment that I'm setting up and I'm going to drag in each item. Now I'll hide my project bin just so I've got plenty of space to work in. So the main part of this embellishment is going to be adding a couple of initials. So grab my type tool and click to create a line of text. I'm going to just type my letters in and then select them to choose a more bulky font. That'll work for what I want to do. Make them nice and big, maybe even 100 points. Now that I've got all my bits and pieces, I'm going to create the embellishment. I'm going to start off with this hexagon pattern and I'm going to cut out a random shape from the hexagons. I'm going to use my polygonal lasso tool. I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to click for each corner of the selection as I follow it around. Now I'm not being too fussy. I think this will give a nice hand cut kind of look to my embellishment. Now if you want to create some other sort of shape, you could go ahead and use other tools such as the marquee tool or the elliptical marquee tool. Now as I get to the end of my shape, back to the beginning, you'll see a little dot appears on my cursor. That's how I know if I click there, it'll join up. Making sure my honeycomb is selected, I'm going to go to Layer, New Layer via Copy, or press Ctrl J. Now when I turn off this original piece of paper, you'll see here's my beautiful little hand-cut hexagons. Now I'm just going to work on the text. So I turn on this text layer and move it to about where I'd like it to be. Now I want to make this text look as if I've cut it out from paper and inked the edges of it. So I'll move this blue layer in the Layers panel just above EJ. Turn it on and then using Scrapper's best friend in Photoshop Elements, which is Ctrl G, I will clip the paper to the shape of the text. So instantly it looks like my text is cut out of this matching paper and it looks great. Now I'm just going to add a little bit of distressing around the edges of my letters. I'm going to click on the blue paper layer and then click Create New Layer. Again, I'll use Ctrl G to clip this new layer to the shape of the E and the J. Now I'll choose my brush tool and change it to the watercolour loaded wet flat tip. It's my favourite. Yep, that looks like a pretty good size. And I'm going to choose black and get my paintbrush and just paint around the edges of my letter. Now it doesn't look too good at this stage, but you'll soon see that it turns out quite nicely. Now when I've finished painting, you'll see that it stayed perfectly within the lines, but Ctrl G and you'll see that it's quite messy. That's the beauty of clipping a layer to the shape of another layer. Now I'm going to go into my blend modes, which is in the layers panel, and you can see it's normal here. And I'm going to choose overlay. Reduce the opacity down a bit so it's not quite so obvious. But it looks like a little bit of inking or perhaps distressing to the edges. I'm happy with how this is looking. I'm going to add the next part of my embellishment, which is a ribbon. And I'm going to cut out my ribbon using again my polygonal lasso tool. So I'm going to click on my ribbon layer and click to make some ribbon end shape. Ctrl J to make a new layer, and I'm going to do a second set of ribbon ends here that are a little shorter. Back on my original ribbon layer, Ctrl J. So if I turn off my original ribbon layer, you can now see that I've got these two pieces of ribbon. In fact, I'm even going to shorten this ribbon up a bit. So I'm going to click on my marquee tool and select the ribbon, make it a little bit shorter by deleting the part that I don't want anymore. I'm going to stack these up. I'm going to rotate using the little rotate handle. Now I can't see it all that well right now, so I'm just going to add a drop shadow. These are Rosy Posy shadow styles, but you could use any of the shadows in the effects panel in Photoshop Elements. Now I can see what I'm doing a little more. Shift click on both layers and rotate them until they will work. And at this point I'm going to show my little staple and add that to fasten the ribbons on. Even though it's digital, I think it always looks better if it's got a little fastener there. So now I'm just going to click on this EJ layer, the text, and hold down Shift and click on the top layer, and then link those layers together so I can move them around. I'm going to do the same thing with the ribbon. Shift click on the staple, click on the staple and shift click on the other two bits of ribbon. Add link layers so they're all linked together and I can move them around. Now I'm going to just click on my background layer, add a shadow to that, click on my EJ layer, make sure I've selected the actual text layer, add a shadow to that, and it's looking pretty good. I think I'd just like to add one more thing. I want to add, there's this little rascal here. I'm going to place it in there. And I think I'll just use the lil from there. So how I do that is I'll select the area where the lil is and then press Ctrl J to create a new layer, turn off the original layer, and then you can see I've just got the lil selected. At the moment the rub-on or the digital rub-on is in front of these ribbons and I don't want it that way, so I'm just going to drag the thumbnail down to below the ribbon. There you can see I've now finished my embellishment. A bit of pattern paper, rub-on, created my own letter stickers and my own little ribbons. Now if I was to want to use this on my digital scrapbook page, all I need to do is use my move tool to select the area where the shape is, Then you'll see in the right hand pane here, it's selected all the parts of that embellishment. I right mouse button click, duplicate layers, and then add it to my layout. Now you can see that it's brought my embellishment into this scrapbook layout. I'm just going to click link layers to make sure that they're all linked together, and then I can move it around to wherever I want it to be on my scrapbook page. There you have it, a little customized embellishment for a scrapbook page, made from a bit of pattern paper, ribbon, a part of a rub-on, and some letter stickers I've created myself. I hope this has been interesting to you to see the possibilities of creating your own digital embellishments. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you'd like to learn more about digital scrapbooking in Photoshop Elements, head over to digitalscrapbookinghq.com for more tips, tutorials, and online workshops.